The following program contains explicit calls for clear thinking. If you suffer from emotionalism, Randall may not be right for you. Check with your romance novelist.
Speaking the truth when others hold their tongues. Wrestling for justice with left-wingers and crocodiles. Resisting the temptation to keep the peace at any price. The only talk show host who writes his own theme music, Randall Terry.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another special edition of Randall Terry, the voice of resistance. It is I, your servant, Randall. It's official. The 112th Congress has been sworn in as gods that walk amongst us. Well, today, we're going to ask people going by in the street, what do you hope to get from the new Congress? But first, a word of wisdom from Rusty Cowpoke.
Hey, great to see you. You know, Alaska Senator Murkowski won by being a write-in candidate. How about winning elections by doing the best write-in? I reckon the most honest way to have elections these days is by rodeo. I mean a good old-fashioned bull-riding, cowboy-stomping rodeo. Whoever's able to ride the bull the longest wins. Watch them get the stuffing kicked out of them by the biggest, meanest bull we got. Now, we already got ourselves a rodeo clown, right? Carl Rove. Can we get Reed to get stomped on by the meanest bull?
Well, it's official, ladies and gentlemen, a new Congress. Now, most people in America and some places around the world are used to Congress dishing out gifts. You know this program is usually deadly serious, but I thought it would be fun to talk about what people want from the new Congress. So we interviewed the man in the street. It's a simple question. What do you want from the new Congress? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's official. The new gods who walk amongst us, they're in power. So let's talk to men and women and find out what they expect to get from the new Congress. Sir, my name is Inigo Montoya. 20 years ago, you killed my father. Prepare to die. What do you want from the new Congress?
I want regulations to finally rein in the out-of-control labor unions.
A right to work man.
I am a right-to-work man. I'm a right-to-work employee, as a matter of fact.
Very good. Are you part of the union?
No.
Do they have your address?
Probably. The great database in the sky knows everything, after all.
Grrr. All right, God bless you.
Take care.
Dude, what do Australians want from the new Congress?
Just to listen to the rest of the world.
Really?
Yep, just listen to the rest of the world. You know, it's not all about America, it's about every other country as well.
Whoa. This is the first time I heard about that. Not about us, excuse me. So what do you want from the new Congress?
Bring a lot of money to the people.
Bring all the money to the people. Very good. This guy needs to be an American. What do you hope to get from the new Congress? I've been rejected.
Je trouve que les Américaines sont très agréables à regarder.
Nancy Pelosi has very bad breath, and he's glad that she's no longer going to be the Speaker of the House.
Vous avez vraiment un joli chapeau, oui.
He likes what she's done with her hair, by the way.
Moi aussi? Non, mais je crois vraiment que vous êtes une personne vraiment très sympathique.
He likes that John Boehner's wearing French suits, not Italian suits. What do you hope to get out of the new Congress?
Export the IRS to China in exchange for garbage trucks.
Vous êtes vraiment un crocodile man.
Thank you. He wants to know about the boots. Show him the boots, Andrew. He wants to, they're ostrich.
C'est très impressionnant.
They're actually, he wants to know if they're French ostriches. Yes, there's a lot of French ostriches with their head in the sand, if you know what I'm talking about.
Ce n'est qu'aux États-Unis qu'on voit ça, je pense.
No, he asked if they were World War II vintage. No. What do you want from the new Congress?
Job.
A job.
Money.
Job and money. Very good. Well, there you have it. The wish list from the man in the street. I'd like to be serious for a minute. What I didn't hear, and I desperately wanted to hear, was this. We want to be left alone. Leave us alone. Stop taking more money from us than the lords who ruled the serfs of the Middle Ages. Stop taking so much from us that we feel like a slave labor force on your federal plantation. Stop regulating so many aspects of our lives. Stop with your stupid cash for clunkers, your bailouts of insurance companies, banks, automakers. Leave us alone. Let us keep what we earn. Think about this, friend. God himself only wants 10%. 10%. So, from where I come from, the very most the government should ever take, total, would be 9.9%. Because the government is not God. Now, there's a lot of good people out there who say, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Okay, fine. God never said that Caesar has the right to take more than God. Think about it. Now, for those of you who are saying, well, how will our government be funded? Well, take a look at the history of the United States from Jamestown and the Plymouth Plantation all the way until the early 1900s. Did you know that the average tax burden on the average American, the rich, the poor, and the middle class, that the average tax hovered between 1 and 3% total? Between 1 and 3%. Yeah. That's federal, state, and local taxes. 1 and 3%. Now, in that atmosphere of freedom, we became what is arguably the most prosperous nation in the history of the world. All right, we're just talking about economics now. We're not talking about religious freedom, political freedom, freedom of speech, etc. Just economics. With a tax burden of 1 to 3%, we became the most prosperous nation in the world in modern times, maybe in the history of the human race. And now that we live under this crushing tax burden of nearly 50 cents of every dollar going to state, federal, and local governments, we're about to be passed by China. Soon after that, we'll be passed by India. And we have a $14 trillion debt. Why is that? Because these people here, under the leadership of both parties, think that we are their slave labor force. They think that they're our masters and they have to tinker with every aspect of life. What do I want from Congress? I want to be left alone. Just build good roads and bridges. Have a good military. All right? Prosecute criminals who try and take away life, liberty, and property. That's what I want. I'll say this one thing and then we'll go to Alan Keyes. Just dealing with Social Security, just Social Security. If the leaders of General Motors or Kodak or any huge corporation that had trust funds set aside for the retirement of their employees, if the leaders of those businesses did with those trust funds of their employees, if they did with that money what this Congress and the ones before it have done and are doing with the Social Security Trust Fund, they'd go to prison. They would go to prison. Because the money in Social Security, it's not there. It's been spent. Spent. The Social Security Trust Fund, there's nothing in there but a bunch of IOUs. And so right now, we're living under this crushing economic burden because of the theft and, in my opinion, the malfeasance of one Congress after another. Will this Congress be any different? It remains to be seen. I don't have much hope, to be honest with you, but we've got 100 days to give them a chance. I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, ask the doctor, Dr. Alan Keyes. Don't go away.
I remember when Randall and I listened to Teddy Roosevelt's Whistle Stop campaign on the Bull Moose ticket. He didn't buy his arguments then, and he hasn't changed a bit since.
Moments with Moses. The Lord will cause you to be defeated before your enemies. You shall go out one way against them and flee 7 ways before them.
I feel good. Da-na-na-na-na-na. Why? Because I've been to see the doctor, Dr. Alan Keyes, welcome again. You're watching an exclusive, by the way, with Randall Terry, the voice of resistance, and it is a privilege and an honor for me to have Dr. Keyes with us. The twin electric rails of American politics that, in my opinion, are the watershed issue that divides us concerning the authority of God, namely child killing by abortion and homosexual marriage. The Democrats have embraced these evils. The Republicans are trying to pretend as if they don't exist, or let's throw them out. What role should they play in the American political battles?
Well, first of all, I think they're both of them fundamental because they involve our understanding of what it means to do what's right, to have rights. Now, of course, if our system isn't about rights, then the Constitution is meaningless. It's just a piece of paper that put down some whims and people can kind of change it whenever they please, guarantees nothing, constrains nothing, and we therefore can have a tyranny just like everybody else has always had because the Constitution won't stand in the way. If, on the other hand, we are really constrained by our respect for authority, the authority of God, to try to come together and do what's right and respect the rights that arise from that commitment, if that's really true, then the Constitution becomes a constraint. Then the aim of government to secure our inalienable rights becomes a constraining aim. So whatever power you give to government can only be used in a way that stays within the boundaries of that respect for right as determined by the laws of nature and nature's God. That's what the founders intended. So the folks who come along and act as if you can take marriage and define it any way you please are basically saying, well, that's because there are no rights inherent in the family. Does that mean parents have no rights in terms of their children? Does that mean children have no rights in terms of what they can expect their parents to do? Of course not. It has been, since time immemorial, clear that children belong to their parents. Parents belong to their children. That there is a mutual kind of property that a family has in the members of that family. And there are rights and obligations that go along with that belonging, including the right of children to expect care from their parents that respects their welfare, and the right of parents to expect respect and obedience from their children, also, by the way, on account of respect for their welfare and the common welfare of the family. Without that understanding, then there are no parental rights. But if we're going to reject God's determination of right with respect to the family, what is the meaning of right over all? If we're willing to turn our back and say, well, the only rights that exist with respect to human sexuality are the ones the government defines. Well, once you've established that as the basis for your understanding of right, everything, property rights, individual rights, free speech rights, political rights, it all becomes a matter of the arbitrary power of government.
If the right to life is in jeopardy, all rights are immediately and automatically in jeopardy. If the government can say you can kill anyone you want, then how can you protect property or liberty or free speech or anything?
Well, if the very idea of right is defined in such a way that what is right is what the government says is right, and that therefore you only have the rights that the government says you have, then anytime somebody wins government power, right will be redefined in terms of their intention for the use of that power, and whatever they want to do will be sanctioned.
Are you telling me that the Supreme Court is not made up of gods that walk among us?
Well, you know, the
I was going to burn incense to Ginsburg. I swear I was.
What our founders understood is that if you start treating these people as if they are gods that walk amongst us, then they become beasts who will devour us.
Ooh.
That's what they understood.
I felt the chill right down my spine when he said that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Randall Terry, the voice of resistance. My guest is Dr. Alan Keyes in a series of interviews. If you like what you're seeing on this program, tell your friends about it. I promise you this is the nation's #1 Tea Party broadcast. You know how come I know it? Because I said it. I'm Randall Terry. We'll be back tomorrow with Dr. Alan Keyes. Thank you, Doctor.
You're welcome.
Oh, shut-de-do, keep out the devil. Shut-de-do, keep the Rudy in the night. Shut-de-do, keep out the devil. GOP gonna be alright. GOP gonna be alright.
Man is called a reactionary if he objects to having his property stolen and his wife and children murdered. Sir Winston Churchill.
Welcome back to the program. Special thanks to Dr. Alan Keyes for being a part We're going to run a whole bunch of those. Ask the doctor, and I promise you, every one is as good as the one before. Well, big splash in the news, of course. Nancy Pelosi gone. John Boehner in. What did they have to say? Let's show Nancy in her swan speech.
Today, as we take the oath of office to support and defend our Constitution, we do so as trustees of America's best hopes and custodians of America's highest values.
Well, if you're a common person, what she just said translated to you is blah, 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 blah. And now to John Boehner, the new Speaker of the House. Here's a clip or two from what he had to say.
Which I accept cheerfully and gratefully, knowing that I am but its caretaker. After all, this is the people's house.
Now, what John Boehner was saying, for those of you who need to speak in normal parlance, is, I'm not Nancy Pelosi, and I look good in this suit.
Okay, great.
All right, what do you think the odds are of Mr. Boehner really pushing defunding of Planned Parenthood?
I don't know. I think they've got $14 trillion debt, as our friend back there talked about. So I think there's going to be a challenge, and it all depends. And we found in 1994 that it all depends on what the White House is willing to fight.
Well, these guys control the purse strings. They can just say, it doesn't matter what you do, we ain't putting it in the budget.
That's a good point. That's a good. Oh, that's the checkbook starts right here.
That's right. And only here
in the House of Representatives,
right.
Constitutionally. That's right. Good to see you again.
Good to see you. Hope to be on your show. Why haven't you had me on lately?
I will.
Come on.
I will. Good to see you.
I'll talk to you.
Hi, I'm Robert Stacy McCain with the American Spectator, also of theothermccain.com, and I've hijacked Randall's show because I wanted to interview him. Mr. Terry, I understand that there are a lot of people who are saying that the new 112th Congress, dominated by the Tea Party, is not interested in some of the social issues. What is your take on that?
I think that what we can call the new Congress is socialist light. I think that in their core, most of the Republicans are socialists. Until you're ready to say Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, they all have to be phased out and ended. Until you're ready to say we're done with the redistribution of wealth, you're a socialist. You're just tinkering around the edges.
And I know that you are a leader of the pro-life movement. What do you expect? Do you expect any action from this Congress on your issues?
Well, we've said to Mr. Boehner's chief of staff, if you don't defund Planned Parenthood, we are going to come after you. We're done playing nice. You control the purse strings. You control the money right now. So if you don't defund Planned Parenthood, all your rhetoric amounts to lies and hypocrisy. Defund Planned Parenthood. Maybe pass a federal law that outlaws all child killing from, say, 20 weeks and after, so that no viable babies are being killed in late-term abortions, and work towards outlawing all child killing, of course. But that would show us that they mean business, and they're not using us like a pimp uses a prostitute.
All right. Thank you very much, Randall Terry, and I'm Robert Stacy McCain. Thanks for joining us.
Give me back my show! They sacrificed their sons and their daughters to the demons. They poured out innocent blood, the blood of their sons and daughters, whom they sacrificed to the idols of Canaan, and the land was polluted with blood. Thomas Jefferson said, "On every unauthoritative exercise of power by the legislature, must the people rise in rebellion, or their silence be construed into a surrender of that power to them? If so, how many rebellions should we have had already? One, certainly, for every session of assembly." These the words of Thomas Jefferson, saying, look, if you're silent, they will construe your silence as a surrender to their will, to their agenda. We've got a new Congress, over 70 freshmen. Are we going to hold their feet to the fire? Or will they construe our silence as our happiness with mediocrity or with tinkering around the edges? I urge you, Go to terrycast.com. That's terrycast.com. And you could, if you want to, send a personal letter by fax to every member of Congress. And believe me, it gets read. Take advantage of it. Go to terrycast.com. But no matter what, plague them with phone calls. Go to their office in your community. When they're back home, pay them a visit or come here to the nation's capital. Let's not allow silence to be construed by them as us surrendering to their agenda. I'm Randall Terry. God bless you.